5 years ago, I moved to Dubai when I was literally 22 years old. Had no clue what I was doing. Just thought, hey, I want to get out of Germany. I want to try something new. I just had just finished uni and I didn't know what to do with my life. But it was COVID and Germany was getting locked down. Dubai was still open. I was like, all right, let's seize the chance. Let's try something new. Rent back then was kind of cheap. So all right, it was a bit easier to settle down, especially I was able to live like in a nice area, moved to downtown Dubai. Rent was kind of decent. I was doing some freelance work, online marketing and stuff like that. That was able to sustain that kind of lifestyle. And it didn't take too long until I wanted to start my own brand. I had my uncle who did his own skincare brand and it just took off. Super successful, really rich guy now. He literally started from zero as well. And I was like, all right, I want to do the same. So I was like, all right, let me start with jewelry. And I was starting an e-com business back then. It was a fine jewelry brand. I was like, you know what? I want to be super fancy. I want to build a super fancy brand. And I failed miserably. And there was a reason why I failed. And I only understand this now clearly in retrospect. And pretty much it was about a couple of reasons that I can categorize and sum up for you. The first thing is overcomplicating. Back then, I was like planning for months, designing stuff, thinking of the perfect logo, the perfect font, the perfect website, all those things that don't really matter. And I just wasted a lot of time with that. And then things didn't really work out as planned. I got a few sales, but nothing really major. And then at the end of the day, I did not manage. I failed in that business. And a lot of people will say, oh, you failed, like, you're a loser. But I learned later that failure is part of life and you have to fail. So it took me a couple of years to realize this. But what I ended up doing then, I started working for my uncle who was very successful in his skincare business. And even though I felt like a total failure and loser for that time, I learned so much. So he became a mentor for me. And he really told me what to focus on. And what I learned, the first thing was to move fast. You want to get things done, you get them done on the same day. You don't try to think about, oh, I will try to figure this out this week and then, next week and we will check and so on. No, you set a task for today and you literally get it done. And there's no excuses. Like you don't go to sleep before this is done. And this also kind of forces you to compromise in some ways. Like you literally have to find workarounds or, kind of compromise in quality maybe, but, at least you can check it off your list and that allows you to do progress. And you want to keep certain amount of progress on a daily basis. Like you want to keep momentum, even though if it's tiny steps, at least you're moving. Because when you set like those huge goals where you're like, all right, I want to come up with a perfect logo. I want to, come up with a perfect business name. You just end up, oh, I'll think about it. You don't really move forward, or like stupid, simple things end up taking you forever. So what you need to do is you need to move fast, get stuff done, and just try to tackle those things. It's really about speed. And I keep hearing this from all successful people. It's number one. So don't overcomplicate, get things done, even though if it's small progress, but there needs to be progress daily. The other thing is don't overcomplicate it or don't reinvent the wheel. You want to take what's already working. So what you're going to do is you're going to find like a business model or like a brand that already is working and you're just going to copy it and just maybe tweak some things. I have learned from the most successful people I have met in my life, their businesses were not unique. They did not like reinvent the wheel. They did not, invent Facebook or, Instagram, like, all those, new innovations that are very, very rare. No, they found one business that was already working and they literally copied it, They literally copied it to the point, but they improved certain things, in order to stand out and differentiate. But the market is big. Even if you're copying something, there's always going to be a certain demand. Like you're going to be able to capture a certain market share. So don't overthink that part, just think of something that works. And you know what? Most of the time, it's the really simple businesses. Like you can literally think of like a laundry business, like, why do you have to think so complicated? Like, it's very unlikely that you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg who creates Facebook. If we have to think realistic for a moment, if we want to actually, try to get out of our life or like try to get out of our bad situations in a relatively fast way, You cannot just spend years working on something that's overly complex. What you want to do is find something simple, that kind of street smart, simple business ideas, like a gas station, like a spa, like those kind of simple businesses that are kind of like emergency or foolproof. And don't overthink it. And especially in e-com, my problem actually was that I wanted to do fine jewelry. So I was like all buying like 18 karat gold and like, really overcomplicating the design and really like trying to make this whole thing feel very artistic and, very beautiful and aesthetic. And that was a big mistake. And it actually caused me to fail. And because of that failure, I was, facing some years of my life where I was not feeling very happy and not feeling very, accomplished. And what I learned then is to, like I said, try to think a bit more simple. I've heard some people use the word retard maxing, which kind of sums it up, which is basically to think simple. Think simple and don't overcomplicate things and just keep moving. And I also learned that you want to stick to just one thing. So let's say you pick one niche right now in e-com or whatever you choose that's of interest to you. It doesn't really matter what you choose. It is more about that you keep going and it's more about you succeeding. And the moment you choose a certain business, you just have to keep going. So you're going to keep going and not stop. You have to make daily progress. Even if it's tiny steps, tiny steps end up taking you places that you would have never imagined you could get there. So the point is, it doesn't matter what you choose. That's another thing I learned. It's about how you do it and how consistent you are. Because no one is perfect in the beginning. Everything you try, everything you start, you're not going to be good at it at first. It's going to take time. And the moment you start and the moment you just continue, you keep going, is when you actually gain that experience and you actually become better. And when you become better, eventually your business is also going to succeed. But the moment you switch businesses again is when you have to start from zero again. And that will waste just so much time, because imagine now, you started something, maybe you went 2 months, all right, it didn't work. And then you just started like something else again that you just wasted 2 months. Instead of just keep going, you would have been able to, maybe after 4, 5, 6 months, eventually you would have succeeded, but you already gave up. So another thing is not to give up. And in my case, I actually gave up, and that was a big problem. That's why I failed. I gave up. But also, there were other mistakes I did. The problem was that I overcomplicated it, and I was just overthinking every step of working on that business that just wasted so much time. And what I'm doing now is, because we've had so much success in my uncle's skincare business, that I'm now at the stage that I want to relaunch my jewelry business, which is what I'm doing now. So far, so good. Have some other businesses on the side that allowed me to generate some passive income and allow me to live a good life here in Dubai. However, that jewelry business is really a passion that I want to, get back to and, make it big, because my dream is always to have my own brand. And what I'm going to do this time is going to be more different. It's going to be a bit more simple, actually. And I think it's going to be easier. So I'm not going to overcomplicate things. I literally write down the stuff that I need to be doing in the morning when I wake up. Take a pen and paper, not some fancy, software tool for planning and scheduling and all those random tools that are there. I just write down what I need to be doing in order to make a little bit progress. Even if it doesn't seem like much, at least every day I'm moving. And I'm just going to keep doing that. And for example, first thing that I might do is like find a new supplier, upload posts, do some organic, that kind of stuff. So that's one thing. So one is consistency and simplification. The other thing is organic marketing. Because I believe most of the e-com brands out there, they're just literally burning money with paid ads. Especially what I've learned over the years, that marketing on Meta is extremely expensive, and it just keeps getting more expensive. So the only way is to actually start without burning a lot of money is actually becoming really good in organic. And then once you're good in organic, you can actually start launching ads. So my mistake back then was also my organic was crap. It was complete junk. Images were bad. I didn't really have like good content, and I started spending money on ads, and that just, burned money. And now I know, all right, the first thing that I'm going to do is first of all, set up everything as fast as possible, and then go super hardcore on organic marketing, which is something I've also become extremely good at. And obviously I had some help from my mentor uncle, who really helped me understand, like, even though it's like super simple things, in the end, I learned the things that are most important are actually the most simple. Whenever I hear people tell me like their business ideas that they're working on, I can already tell just by them explaining the business model that it's probably not going to work out. Whenever it is too complicated, whenever I hear them, explaining something super difficult, oh, I'm coding an AI tool for like real estate companies that work in this industry for construction. Like, it's like, dude, oh my God, like what the heck? This is your first business you're starting and launching? Like, are you serious? Like, you're just torturing yourself. You say you want to get out of the crap, and then you're literally like choosing a business that's so freaking difficult and like very unlikely to work out unless you have like huge funding, and it's going to take years, and it's going to be even so difficult to build that. Instead of just, there's then these other guys who didn't even go to school, and they're opening gas stations and like driving Lamborghinis, and then it's like, oh, life is so unfair. I genuinely think that if you are too smart, it is actually a disadvantage. I see a lot of guys who are just like those street smart guys who are actually not that intellectual, but they're just way more successful, and they have all these intellectual people working for them. It's something I see all the freaking time, and it just gets me upset because I used to be one of them. I launched my business thinking super complicated, like, oh, all these things, web dev, and I'm going to do stuff myself as well. There's also another thing, like trying to do too many things by yourself. It just slows you down. You need specialists for each thing. Even if you partner with them and give them shares, like it's worth it because you will just keep on moving forward instead of, I want to keep 100% shares. I'll just do everything myself. No, you need a team. It's another thing. It's just my thoughts are all over the place. I'm just doing this freestyle, literally if I could speak to myself 5 years ago, this is what I would tell myself. So yeah, I'm going to keep making those videos, kind of explaining, kind of like talking in a way that I would be talking to my younger self, hoping that it can help people. Because these past 5 years, I've just learned so freaking much because I'm literally so hungry for success like you cannot imagine. And I was so freaking frustrated when I failed in my business. I was just so upset, and I literally felt like the biggest loser. And it was just the moment when I went and like talked to my uncle, and I literally told him like, dude, like, yes, I love helping you, and I enjoy this and I'm learning so much, but I just feel like a freaking loser. It was like, no, you're not a loser. You're learning. And whenever you're ready, you're going to be able to launch your own business, take that knowledge, obviously, and relaunch your own business. And that time you're just going to be consistent. You're not going to give up. The moment you give up is when you lose. Anyways, so I'm going to be making those kind of videos. Like I said, I'm going to be talking like I'm talking to my younger self, sharing my experience. I'm going to take you on this journey, how I'm relaunching this brand, and I'm just going to not do the same mistakes that I did before. And I hope it can help you. And this is basically for e-com, for those kind of people that want to launch their own brand. Not doing this like drop shipping scam. Obviously, it's drop shipping is also a good thing. The hype is kind of over. If you kind of do it smartly, it can still work. But I think now we're at a time where, it's not even that expensive to buy inventory anymore, and you can buy like some cheap stuff. And if you do good online organic marketing, I think you can succeed in that rather than doing like one of those super generic, cheap online stores. But anyways, I will document all of that. I will share my thoughts. I will literally explain to you how you can launch your own brand and learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to go through what I did, and you can literally get started right away and not waste all these years. If you're 18, if you're 17, if you're 20, it doesn't matter if you're 30. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you start and that you just learn and have a guidance. I think it's very important to have guidance. When you have a mentor, it is significantly easier. You avoid all of those mistakes, and you can literally, jump ahead. People always say, oh, I don't need a mentor. Like, oh, this is all scam. Like, no, you need someone to guide you to not make those mistakes. And even though those kind of things that I might be teaching you are like, oh, but this is so simple. But again, it is the simple stuff that matters. Anyways, long story short, I hope you enjoy this content. Please follow, please like. I'm doing this even though I'm not getting a lot of views. I don't care. I do this because I enjoy it. And I hope that someday, even if it's my children, they can maybe watch this. So anyways, hope you guys enjoy this one. You take care and see you in the next one. Bye.